Hi class. Let's take a look at the next set of problems. And as we're looking at the next set of problems, um, they're going to require a couple more steps. For example, some of them may require order operations. And here are the most important parts of order operations. You're going to be working on multiplication or division from left to right. Same idea, addition or subtraction from left to right. And let me just write it as from left to right. And then you're technically working in this order, first parentheses, exponents, then multiplication or division, whichever comes first from left to right, then addition or subtraction, whichever comes first from left to right. Another property that shows up in this particular section is the distributive property. And this deals with the following. If you have a parentheses and some sort of a sum in the inside, you could multiply the a to those two terms, and that's going to give you ab plus ac. So another way of viewing this one is any value that's outside of a parentheses, it's multiplying all the terms inside of the parentheses. Hence, that's why we're given the b and the ac. Okay, let's take a look at the first problem. And as we look at the first problem, we're supposed to simplify it inside of each of those parentheses. So for the first one, let me just rewrite it as a single fraction since it's a multiplication. So this is 3 times 1 and 4 times 3. And we'll be able to cancel those 3's. Out of the second parentheses, we technically have, well, 2 times 1 and 2 times 2 minus 1/2. So we're simplifying the fraction. That's your 1/4. And then let me rewrite the simplified fraction. So out of the first parentheses, we're left with 1/4. Out of the second parentheses, we're able to cancel the 2's. So this is going to give us a 1/2 minus another 1/2. And this is good news because these two cancel out. So therefore, you're going to end up with 1/4 times the values of 0. And this is just going to give us a final answer of a 0 as we simplified problem A. So problem A cancels out. The last, our final value happens to be 0. Let's take a look at problem B. And good news on problem B, we just have the exponents to deal with. So in this case, I'm just going to rewrite it as, well, 3/4 times 3/4 times 3/4, or the values of 27 over 64. That's all we're doing on that one. And this is supposed to be a 3. Okay, let's take a look at problem C. Now, problem C, before you multiplied the 3/5, you have to simplify it inside of the parentheses and apply the exponents. So in this case, this one is just going to be the values of 3/5. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to apply the exponents. Remember that you apply the exponents to the top and bottom. So in this case, I'm just going to say that this is 2 to the second and 3 to the second, which simplifies to, well, you still have the 3/5. And then this will be 4/9. And then at this point, nothing simplifies, so we're just going to end up with 12 over 45. And let me pause the video for a minute for you guys to catch up before going into the next problem. Okay, let's take a look at the next problem. And here we have to be careful, because as you're reading the problem from left to right. So technically from left to right, you're supposed to apply the multiplication first. So let me just rewrite this expression, and I'm not doing nothing to the 1/2 yet. So this is technically 3/4. And we're going to multiply this times 4/5. And then we still have the division sign, and then the 1/2. So by order operations, we work on these from left to right. Multiplication came first. So as we multiply the first two fractions, technically we're going to have just the 3/5. And let me just point out the rules are here above. So you're reading this from left to right. Before we saw the division, there was a multiplication. So I'm referring to this portion here. Okay, and then we still have that this is going to be divided by 1/2. So at this point, we can just rewrite it as 3/5 times 2/1. Remember that the last step requires a division, which changes the symbol to a multiplication, and then we multiply by the reciprocal. At this point, no values cancel out, so we end up with 6/5. And then I won't write the answer as a mixed number unless they're asking us. Same idea with the original problem. It doesn't have any mixed numbers, so I'll just leave them as an improper fraction. Let me double check, but we end up with 3 times 2, which is 6/5. Let's take a look at the next one. Now, on the next one, here's what we could do. So let me just use the property, the distributive property, but before we use that, let me just rewrite it as this is 6 times, and I'm going to multiply those two values. So we have still the values of 4, 6, plus technically 8/3 times 2 is going to be 6. And one advantage of using the distributive property is that on certain problems, you may see this simplification. So technically here you have 6 times 4 6s plus 6 times 8/6. And then just in this particular problem, the 6's cancel. Or the fraction reduce, you end up with 4 plus the values of 8, which is equal to 12. Like I said, on this particular problem, it worked out really nicely. As I pointed out earlier, the distributive property, as long as you have a value on the outside of a parentheses, that value multiplies every single term inside. So in this situation, because there is a 6 at the bottom, you could just multiply it with the 6 on the top. And this is technically 6/1. So all of these technically represent fractions. I didn't write it over as 6/1 because it was just going to make it a little bit more complex. So that's it for these set of problems.